Welcome to the Home Team, the show where no matter who you root for here, you're a part of the home team. I'm your host, Wyatt Bagnall, and today we are previewing the Sunday and Monday games for the NFL season, Week 7. We have some really good games this week and a lot of interesting scenarios that could happen. We're getting to the time of year where these teams are going to start to separate. A lot of teams sort of like bunched together in the middle, and we're about to see them sort of start to trend up or down, so we will see. Before we jump in, hit like, hit subscribe, share the video with anyone you know who likes football. Thank you very much. Without any further ado, let's jump in. So I'm going to do like I did last time, which is I'm going to tell you who I want to see win this game, and then I'm going to tell you who I think will win the game. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's not. We will see. So, first up, New England at Jacksonville. This is a London game. Another London game. I would say that the Jags have a slight advantage, given that, you know, they've already been over there and New England is flying over. In terms of who I want to win, I think New England winning would be hilarious. I'm also rooting for Drake May. I think he's sort of been put into a bad situation, and he showed flashes last week. And I think this is the type of game that they could win. It's really going to depend on the health of their defense and if they're going to be able to show up and stymie the Jags offense, which is certainly doable. Who do I think is going to win? This is one of those ones where, man, it's desperate times in Jacksonville. I'm going to say I think Jacksonville wins this game, although I really am rooting for New England. Like, this is one of the more strong, what I want to see happen type of games. I'm actively rooting for the Patriots on this one, but I think given that, you know, it's Drake May's second start, the Jags are desperate. They've been over in London for the extra week, not to mention this team is more used to playing over there. I think that there's also the matter of, if we're being real, you know, the Jags are a more talented team than the Patriots, even though I would argue the Patriots have embarrassed themselves less than the Jags this year. But I think that the desperation factor and the inexperience of Drake May combined with the international stuff, I think it'll equal a Jags win. Seahawks at Falcons. Who do I want to win this game? The Falcons. As somebody who's a 49er fan, I take a fair amount of joy in watching Seattle lose. And I think that it would be what? If they lose, it'd be 5 straight? No. 4 straight if they were to lose this game. I also think that is what's going to happen. I think that the Seahawks defense has sort of been exposed. They feasted on some poor teams to start the year, and then once they started running into teams that could actually field an offense, they haven't put up much resistance. I think Atlanta's a little up and down, but I also think that Atlanta has shown a lot of promise and is sort of hitting their stride. And with this game being in Atlanta, I think there's a good chance they can get this done. So I'm going to pick the Falcons. Tennessee at Buffalo. I want Buffalo to win this game because I think that we need some more interesting contenders in the AFC, frankly. The AFC conference on the whole has been pretty underwhelming. And so give me the Bills in terms of who I want. I mean, also, I think the Bills are also going to win this game. I mean, they could play bad and probably still beat the Titans. I think that Josh Allen is playing at a really high level this year. And I think the Amari Cooper trade, I don't think it'll yield too many results this week necessarily. Usually it takes a receiver a little bit longer to get integrated into the offense. I'm sure they'll have plays for him. And they'll have a package for him to come in and start to get his feet wet with them. But I wouldn't expect like a huge Amari Cooper game necessarily. But I don't think Tennessee can really do anything to mess with the Bills. So I'm going to take the Bills. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Until Deshaun Watson is benched, I'm rooting against the Browns, and I say this despite the fact that Myles Garrett is one of my favorite players in the league. Nick Chubb is one of my favorite players in the league. Deshaun Watson does not deserve to be on an NFL field. So until further notice, I'm rooting against the Browns. I also think that Cincinnati's going to win this game because when Deshaun Watson plays, the Browns can't play offense. Now, the Bengals defense is bad, as in really bad. But that does not necessarily mean that they can't stop an anemic Cleveland offense. And I think that really the key here is, can Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati offense just jump out to a lead? I think the only way that, and I'm aware of what everybody's going to talk about, which is, you know, Cleveland has been the team that's sort of had its way with Joe Burrow and, you know, that era of the Bengals. But I also think that the only way that that happens is if the Browns defense shows up with like a heroic effort and that the Bengals offense really just can't get a lead and they sort of let Cleveland stay within themselves, which is we really want to be able to run the ball, and we'll see. I think this might be the week Nick Chubb makes his debut. I know that that's sort of approaching. I wouldn't expect a huge dose of him if it is. I think they're probably still going to try to ease him through, but I just don't see a way that Cleveland wins this unless Cincinnati is about to do something truly extraordinary in terms of collapsing. Houston at Green Bay. This is a really good game. I'm excited for this game. Who I want to see win this game? Give me the Texans. I'm a big fan of DeMeco Ryans, obviously, you know, as he comes, you know, from the San Francisco coaching staff. I'm a huge fan of DeMeco Ryans. I'm enjoying the ascent of the Houston Texans quite a bit. And I think it shows that I know everybody was calling, oh, the Texans are so dumb, like, while they were really bad. But I was always of the opinion, just based on the way they were hiring, based on the way that they were bringing guys to play quarterback, they were never trying to be competitive. The Texans were, like, waiting and biding their time. And I think that it was basically the Texans didn't want to do anything rash and strap themselves into anything or anybody for the next 3 to 5 years when they didn't really believe in it. And then the situation came around where they do, and they pulled the trigger, and now they've been aggressive to improve ever since. And I think that is a gutsy but admirable strategy. And I'm hoping that it pays off for them as long as it's not against my team. I also think that the Texans will have a strong chance of winning this game, given that it's in Green Bay. And I would love to know what the weather report is. What the weather is in Green Bay this weekend. But the Packers, they're not an awesome offensive or defensive team. They're good, but they also are very much, you know, inconsistent. And then tomorrow, so the weather in Green Bay looks like it's not going to be anything too extreme, like something in the 50s. So I don't think the weather's going to be a huge factor for the Texans. Give me the Texans because I think that the Houston defense is better than the Green Bay defense. I think C.J. Stroud is more consistent than Jordan Love. Every single game, Jordan Love is throwing up 2 or 3 balls that can be taken advantage of, and I think that the Texans can do that, and I think that they could feast on that Green Bay O-line. So give me the Texans to go to Green Bay and get the win. Miami at Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson is getting the start again for the Colts. This one's tough because I'm a big Mike McDaniel fan. Same reasons DeMeco Ryans. I like the Dolphins quite a bit. But I also, for the health of Tua, I wouldn't mind if Miami is in a position where they simply say, it's not worth bringing you back this year. We're going to sit you down for the year. So I think from that perspective, I'm going to root for the Colts in this game. And not to mention, it keeps a team that's a little bit more likely to be a contender and a little bit more likely, not necessarily a real contender, but like a playoff spot contender. Miami's already in such a hole. I think it's a little more likely that Indy can contend for one of those wild card spots that I would rather see them win this game. Although, who knows? I mean, I'm also intrigued by the fact that if Miami loses the game, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at like a potential Tyreek Hill trade. As long as they're not sending him back to the Chiefs, I think it's interesting. I'm going to take Indianapolis for the simple fact of Miami's offense can't do a damn thing right now. Some of that's on coaching for sure, but it's just the reality of the situation. The Dolphins can't hang. So I'm going to take the Colts. Detroit at Minnesota. Ooh. That's one of the top games this week. Definitely top 3. I would have to look through the rest entirely. I would say top 3, top 2. Maybe number 1. So Detroit at Minnesota. Boy, oh boy. Everybody knows, or as I refer to often, the Lions are the team that I picked as like an underdog team. That's a tradition my mom got me into, is especially when our teams are good. It's sort of fun to pick an underdog. And for a long time for me, that team was the Lions. And now that they're sort of on the ascent, I'm really rooting for them. So I'm rooting for them here against the Vikings, and I think all of us are. And I'm going to take them to beat the Vikings. I think that Sam Darnold was pretty mortal in that last London game. I think that they've also sort of... They're really good, but they're playing above their head in a lot of areas, especially defensively, personnel-wise. And when Brian Flores has been able to blitz and really confuse a lot of teams, but the Lions have more of an awareness of what they do because they play them twice a year. So I think this is one where the talent of the Lions is going to overcome the talent of the Vikings. So give me Detroit. I'm picking a lot of freaking road teams. So I don't love that, but here we go. Philly at the Giants. Saquon Barkley returns. He's somehow saying that Giants fans are over it and aren't going to boo him. I don't think he fully understands how irrational we sports fans can be. I'm rooting for the Giants because it would be hilarious if they would beat the Eagles. It'd be really funny. And the Giants have been feisty and showing up in a strong way, and the Eagles are frankly an underwhelming team on both sides of the ball. I think Sirianni is a clown of a head coach, one of the most useless head coaches in the league. And I think that this is one of the few things me and Eagles fans can agree on. I think they don't want him past this year. I don't think he deserves to be a head coach past this year. This is one of the most talented teams in the entire league, and they're underperforming in every phase. So, but with all that being said, I'm picking the Eagles to beat the Giants. Out of all the games I picked last week, the only game I picked wrong was the Browns and the Eagles because I just wanted to pick the Browns out of spite. But I don't think... I mean, listen, the Giants could do it. They could because the Eagles are having a tendency to sort of play down to every opponent. But I would be shocked if they managed to let this one slip away. So I'm going with the Eagles. Vegas at Rams. Boy, oh boy. The health of the Rams is still a big issue. Is Cooper Kupp playing this weekend? I know there was a possibility, or he was listed as questionable. Let's see if Cooper Kupp is playing, shall we? I think that you're dealing with two teams here that are trending in opposite directions. I am just waiting to get back to picking the Rams. Is he actually playing this weekend? I'll talk about the Raiders here for a second while I figure this out. Obviously, Devontae Adams is gone. He's been traded to the New York Jets. And that's sort of big for the Raiders, for a Raiders offense that was already struggling. Basically, every player on the Raiders offense that's not named, in terms of the weapons guys, that is not named Brock Bowers, has not played well. I personally don't believe that the Raiders are going in a good direction. From the moment they hired Antonio Pierce, I have not believed they're heading in a good direction. I think that the trading away of a star player, even if that's a star player who wanted to leave, that is certainly something that can have a very negative effect on morale. And I think that, frankly, you're looking at rumors now like, oh, is Max Crosby wanting to get traded? is, you know, well, I mean, Max Crosby's the big one, but you're basically looking at, is this essentially going to get blown up? Is everything going to just be sold off? It's getting ripped down to the studs. Once again, we're looking at another long-term rebuild in Las Vegas. And I would tend to say yes. I also, basically, Cooper Kupp is still listed as questionable. So we will operate under the assumption that it's a maybe. If Cooper Kupp plays, I think this is a real problem for the Raiders. But back to the Raiders. If they're blowing it up again, and the older guys on this team sense that, a lot of times those guys don't want to stick around. And this is the type of game that if the Raiders lose, everybody in that locker room, if they haven't already, sort of starts to come to grips with the fact that this is probably another lost season. Meanwhile, the Rams, they might have been losing a lot of games, but they also have been very feisty, very competitive, while being injury riddled. And I think that they come into this feeling better about their viability. And if Cooper Kupp plays, I'm 100% taking the Rams. If he doesn't, I'm still taking the Rams. I just believe Sean McVay is so much of a better coach than Antonio Pierce. I believe Matthew Stafford is obviously leagues better than whoever the hell. I think it's Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders right now, quarterback. No comparison. I believe that the Rams defensive line can overwhelm the Raiders offensive line. They're very quietly playing like really good. Jared Verse is playing very well in his rookie year. And this is all just a giant storm brewing to the fact that I think the Raiders are going to blow it up. So I'm rooting for the Rams to win this game because I want to see people get in on the Max Crosby sweepstakes. And I think the Rams are going to win either way. If the Raiders show up and and have like a one last hoorah type of win, good on them. But this isn't the type of year that I think Raiders fans were hoping for. All right, Carolina at Washington. Carolina's been feisty with Andy Dalton. They're playing better on offense, certainly. However, defensively, my God, they are spectacularly bad. And I would love to see Carolina get a win here. So I'll say I'm rooting for... no, I'm not. I'm rooting for Washington. I'll be real. I believe I'm having fun watching Washington ascend, and I hope Washington ends up winning the NFC East this year. So because of that, I'm going to root for them, and I think they're going to win this game. They just showed last week and in the last several weeks, that they can beat up on a bad team now, and that they are able to play a hard-fought game with a good team. So I believe that Carolina is just not ready for that. So I'll take Washington, and I think Washington wins this one pretty comfortably. Okay, the Super Bowl rematch, Kansas City at San Francisco. Obviously, who I want to win this game is the 49ers. Not so much for like the whole idea of, we won the regular season game, even you won 2 Super Bowls over us. No, I want this for a different reason. Number one, I think that we need to start stacking wins and getting momentum. We're one of the few teams in the entire league that's grading out like highly on offense and defense, and yet we're 3-3 because we've let 2 slip away from us. And while that means that for the most part, we're probably going to stack wins and stuff like that, and this is a really tough game, whether we win it or lose it, one way or the other, it's okay. But the fact that this is the team we just haven't been able to beat, regular or postseason, obviously. I know everybody's going to reference the Super Bowls, and thank you for that. I appreciate every reminder of that. But for me, it's been talked about this week by Niners players and coaches, which means that it's something that's sort of being recognized in the locker room, which isn't something that I love, which is the fact that they haven't beaten the Chiefs yet. And I think it's really important that this team, just for their own, I think it's a mental thing at this point, just to try to get over on the Chiefs once. Just prove to yourself that you can. And there are lesser teams than the 49ers that have gotten over and beaten the Chiefs. So it's certainly possible, but I want it from a mental standpoint for the Niners. I think that it's become important. And I also think that just momentum wise, it's been like one win, two loss, two win, one loss. Like, you know what I mean? It's just going back and forth, back and forth. Um, I think it's been win, two loss, win, loss, win. So it's been very uneven to start the year, which is sort of something that I predicted given how the offseason went for us. But I would still love to get this win. So I'm obviously rooting for us. And of course, I'm going to pick us. I think Kansas City absolutely could do it. And Chiefs fans, this is not me trying to be like petty or something like that. Of course, I want to win this game. You guys are an awesome team. And of course, you could win. Like, absolutely. This isn't me trying to be delusional or something like that. This is one that I would love to see us get it. And, I wish the Chiefs a good game. And, if we happen to see them again down the road, we'll see what happens. But I'm rooting for us to win this game. And there are certain games where I'm willing to sit there and be like, this might not be a great week for us to have pulled this opponent. I don't love that we're getting Kansas City off a bye week because Andy Reid historically has really good records off a bye. However, at least if we are, it's like at least we're coming off playing Thursday night against the Seahawks last week. So we still have a couple of extra days where we would have been able to do some work as well. But nothing but respect for the Chiefs. And as much as I, vehemently am going to root against you, I'm sure it'll be a good game. And I'm going to take my team. I'm going to ride with us. And, we'll let the chips fall where they may. Sunday Night Football. The New York Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am rooting for the Steelers so much. So much. Go Pittsburgh. I'm gonna have to go get a terrible towel for this game. I really don't like the Jets right now. They fire Saleh prematurely, in my opinion. Every single time, every one of these moves they make. Like, I don't like it when a team feels like it can essentially buy a Lombardi trophy. I don't like when a team completely yields to the every wish of one guy. And everything about the Jets culture, everything about the way they've approached this, I can't stand it. So I am rooting for the Steelers. I would love it if after all this positivity about we're going to get Devontae Adams, and they still lose. And granted, I have my own gripes with the Steelers right now, too, with playing Russell Wilson over Justin Fields. I don't think that that's a smart move. So, as much as I'm rooting for the Steelers, man, doing that quarterback thing right now for a primetime game, too, I'm actually going to say that I think the Jets are going to win this game because I think that the Devontae Adams thing really does provide a morale boost. And the Jets need to prove it to themselves. And every time we've seen this with a lot of teams, they get one of these new players in there, and you get just that little extra level of belief. Like, okay, that's the piece. And maybe they'll come out in this game and show that it's effective. Not to mention teams don't quite know how they're going to distribute everything with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Granted, the Jets are not particularly creative on the offensive side of the ball, but it's still a new wrinkle, and Devontae Adams is a very good receiver. So I think the Jets are going to win, but my God, am I rooting for the Steelers. All right, so Monday night. We have a Monday night doubleheader, actually. Baltimore at Tampa Bay. I'm rooting for Tampa Bay. I like the Bucs. I don't necessarily have anything specifically against the Ravens, even though I seem to find myself rooting against them a lot. I think it's more that I just have an affinity towards the Buccaneers more than I have something against the Ravens. Like, I have a lot of respect for the Ravens and what their culture is. I just feel like I find myself not rooting for them a lot of the time. I say this, by the way, to say that I'm rooting for Tampa Bay. I think Baltimore is going to win this game. I think Baltimore is going to run roughshod over them. I think that the Buccaneers offense might make this interesting, and the Baltimore defense, they're bringing in defensive consultants and things like that. That's usually a pretty good indicator that they're not super happy with how the defense is performing. In the wake of losing Mike McDonald, there's obviously an adjusting period, and I don't think that they seem to be particularly happy with either the rate that that's coming along, or they've lost some faith that it is going to come along. So they're doing that, which means that the Ravens defense, despite its reputation, is struggling a little bit. And I think that as a result, Tampa Bay could have a fair amount of success on offense. However, I just think that the Ravens are going to be much better. I don't think that the Buccaneers have too many answers for what the Ravens are going to throw at them. So I believe that Baltimore is going to win that game. Chargers at Cardinals. I'm rooting for the Chargers, and I think they're going to win. We got both Harbaughs on Monday night. I like the Chargers a lot. I'm a big fan of Derwin James, Joey Bosa, and Jim Harbaugh for the same reasons why I've referenced Mike McDaniel and D'Amico Ryans. I have a very strong affinity for Jim Harbaugh, and I hope he does very well with the Chargers. So I'm rooting for the Chargers here, and I think that they're going to beat Arizona. I think the Cardinals are feisty. They're doing some good things this year. I don't see it. I think that they're a team that's going to be a seller at the trade deadline too. There's just not quite enough there, I don't think. I think that their one chance here is they have to get out to a lead, and then that puts them in a position to expose the fact that the Chargers do not have great weapons. Wide receiver is certainly, and tight end is certainly not their strength. They don't even have a great receiving back. It's more of, these are downhill runners. They want to try to out-physical you. They want to try to swap paint on the helmets. That's the Chargers' goal right now, and I have a lot of respect for that. The Cardinals' path to victory is we have got to get them down and then try to make them play from behind. Play from a spot where they have to be giving the ball to their weakest players. So whatever the hell you think you can do from an offensive standpoint, don't wait until later in the game to try, we got to set this up. The longer that you let the Chargers keep themselves in rhythm and keep you within striking distance, the more difficult it is to beat them. You got to take whatever the hell your best plays are, and it's got to be in your first two drives. By the end of the first quarter, if we're not up 14-0, I'm not happy as a Cardinals player or fan. I'm not happy as a Cardinals player, Cardinals coach, Cardinals anything, because the longer that team is able to hang in there with you, the more likely it is they're just going to sort of run you over. So I am going to take the Chargers, and I'm rooting for them. So that is all the games. And I hope everybody has a great day of football tomorrow. I hope everybody's team comes out healthy. Chiefs fans, wish you guys luck this weekend. I hope you guys come out healthy but lose. So everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share the video. Peace.